Hey everybody, this is Susan with Pack Leader Dog Training here with Rachel.
With Rachel Caller Dog Training.
And so we're actually doing our Q&As a little bit differently. So what we didn't mention before is I started as an intern at a training facility in Rhode Island. And throughout my stay, Rachel actually started. And so we were interns together there for a little bit. We both had already started our own businesses. And we just really enjoyed each other's company. Our training philosophies are very similar. And we love bouncing, ideas off of each other. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we just got finished bouncing around some training ideas, and now we're going to get to our Q&A.
All right. I think you're starting us off with our first question.
Okay. So how do I know if my dog likes me or not?
So I was going to be honest, with this question. So my sister asked this question, and when she first asked me, I wasn't sure if she was kidding or not. I didn't know if she was being a smart aleck. So, hey, Emily. But then I was thinking about, this is a really good question, because we mentioned it, I know, in a past Q&A about the way our dogs look and the way we perceive how they look. So it's like, oh, my dog doesn't look happy on place or doesn't look happy in this command. So, and I can see how people would feel like, well, I don't think my dog likes me because they don't look happy. Dogs don't express their emotions like we do. So I always think my dog likes me if they look to me for guidance. So it's I'll take the family dog. I would take him out on hikes. And when we're hiking together, for him to look back and check in with me, to me, that's huge. That's you care that I'm here. No, I'm relevant to him. He looks to me for guidance. He knows you matter. So that's cool. That to me is how you know if your dog likes you. Do they care what you say?
That was an awesome point. I love when you put in relevant right there, because that's exactly what it is. How relevant are you to them? I mean, of course, your dog likes you, but do they check in with you? Like you said, what's your relevance? If they check in with you, that means that they have a bond with you. They feel that connection. They're looking to you as in am I doing the right thing? That you're their leader. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Right. Yeah, and I like what you just said. You're yeah, they like you, but it's the relationship. So, they could like you, but it could be a toxic relationship. So it's meh. But that's something new I learned here at this internship. I've never heard it said before, but being relevant to your dog, it really is an eye opener. Because if you're not relevant to them, why are they going to care what you ask them to do? They're not going to look to you for anything. You're just that friend that you can ignore if you want to. So yeah, I think being relevant to your dog is the main thing. And if you're relevant to your dog, that's probably a good sign that you have a good relationship with them. And that's a good sign that your dog likes you.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the most important command?
Okay, so it would kind of do everybody a disservice for me to pick this command that I would say, yes, this one's the most important, because some people might take that and think that the other commands aren't important and only focus on that one. All of the commands really go hand in hand. I know that can be daunting, teaching, all those different commands, and maybe if I just teach this one, my dog will be great. But it's not as simple as saying, oh, this command is really, really important. You should teach this above all others. Every dog's different. So I know Rachel and I were talking, and she made a good point saying that it really depends on the dog, what command would be relevant to it.
Yeah.
But what were your thoughts?
Well, you just stole my thoughts, Susan.
I know, that's why I
No. No, you're good. So because we go over our questions and we're kind of thinking about it before we did this, and that was my thing. It's because originally you had a command in mind, which I thought you wanted to share. But I was
I'm going to come back around to that.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
So yeah, she was telling me the command that she had in mind, and I was yeah, but in this situation, it depends on the family and what you're doing with the dog. So I don't know if I shouldn't spoil what your command is, so just say what you're gonna say, and then I'll go into my thing.
So my most important one, if I had to pick one, if you you have to pick one command, I would say recall, because let's say your dog gets lost, or somebody's watching your dog because that's happened. I've heard horror stories where your dog's being watched, they slip out the door, run out. I would find that recall would be the most important one, because then at least you could always call your dog back to you. You don't have to worry about them running across the road. You could always do like a good recall. That would have been my main one.
So when this question first came up, that's what Susan said, and I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, because like my first response is a little bit of a smart aleck response, and I always said the most important command is all of the commands. And then Susan started talking about that, and I'm like, okay, you're right, that makes a lot of sense. I can see how recall is like up there on the like importance list. But then I was started thinking about it more, and I was like, well, if you have a family who, I mean, mind you, that freak accident is still like, it could happen. I'm like, if you have a family who doesn't take their dog out a bunch, who's not trying to do a bunch of things with their dog, and they just have that dog who's home and they're rowdy and they're crazy, maybe for them, place might be the most beneficial command, or out might be the most beneficial command. So it really kind of depends on, why do you want a command to train your dog? Why do you want just one, when you could like train all of them and have like lots of cool things?
I love how
so yeah.
when you're describing it, you felt that you had an answer, but you're like, oh, I see the validity in your answer. And I did the same thing. I was like, well, I would have picked recall, but Rachel's right. They're all important.
Right. And that's what I love about like this thing that we're doing here, is like, it's cool.
Yeah.
Off each other. But I mean, you definitely had your good points about, I can see how like recall is like, if you don't have that, it could be like really dangerous. And that's why having a solid recall is so important. But it's like having a solid place command is so important for like my family dog, because it's like, just go to your place and be calm, dude. Like, just be calm. So like, that's why like for the longest time I'm like, place is my favorite command. And then I learned out, and it's like, out probably is my favorite. Like, it's my favorite, doesn't mean it's the most important, but out for me is magical, because I didn't train that before coming here. It's a new command that I'm learning. So you can out off of people, you can out off of toys, you can out off of another dog. It's like, whatever you're doing, just stop, because you shouldn't be doing it. Walk away. So they are all the most important, depending on your needs.
Yeah. Long story short, all of them. So the next question, should dogs be allowed on furniture?
So just made a training post about this one. Yes, check out my Instagram and Facebook. So I always say, this is one I'm kind of like lenient on. And when I say that, I mean for you and your dog. Now, if you say your dog can't be allowed on furniture, like, don't go back and forth each day, because that's not fair to the dog. How are they going to know? Don't correct them for getting on furniture if like yesterday they were allowed to. So when I say I'm like wishy-washy on this answer, it's going to depend on the dog. So my go-to is usually if your dog has any aggression, like if they're a resource guarder, if they have people aggression, if they have dog aggression, then no, I wouldn't want them on that level, because if a dog's sitting here next to me, here's my face, here's their face. Doesn't super seem like a situation I want to be in with a dog that has any aggression issue. That being said, if you've got a dog with separation anxiety, spatial independence is really important for them. So like them being on the furniture might cause more harm than good. So it really depends on the dog. And then like my next question is, do you want the dog on furniture? Because believe it or not, like I've had clients ask me, I shouldn't say clients, I think it was maybe only one, because they're like, should I allow my dog on furniture? And it was like a super chill dog. And I'm like, yeah, like that would be fine. And they're like, but I don't want them on furniture. And I'm like, it's your house. So then I go into like, it's your house, your furniture, your dog. Do you want it on furniture? That's up to you then. I just say like a bonus points as if your dog only comes up when they're invited. So having like a solid up or couch or whatever you want to call it, and then that solid out command or off command. So when it's time to go, it's time to go. So if you notice your dog is getting a little weird, you can just out them instead of like having to physically like move them, which could get ugly. Or if you're just done with cuddles, just out, you're done. And then inviting them up is nice. So it's like, if you are all dressed up to go do whatever you're going to do, and you sit down on the couch and then your dog comes and jumps on you and now you're all muddy, that's lame. But if you want to invite your dog up when you want them up, that's cool. So there's my super long rant of I don't have an answer for you, and it depends on a lot of things.
Sorry, you just with you
Ranted for a
talking,
while.
no, with you talking, you hit on some good points, and I'm actually making notes of good topics of conversation later. Right?
Yeah,
So
thanks. I'm
thank
glad.
you for that.
Yes,
But
everybody
yeah,
feel free to take notes. No.
but I was gonna say the good thing about, or the nice thing about owning a dog is it's your dog, right? So these are just our opinions, our professional opinions. If you want your dog on furniture, cool, do it. If
Right.
you're, you know, we might not recommend it if your dog has certain issues, but if you don't care about those issues and you want them on the furniture, have at it. It's your dog. It's
Right.
a great thing. Like these are
man.
our recommendations, yeah. All right. So next one.
Oh yeah, it's my turn to ask. How do you build a dog's confidence?
Okay. So confidence building is pretty much just getting a dog to do something it's afraid of and making it to where they're not afraid of it anymore. So we just kind of counter condition. And that's really what confidence building is. So my confidence building for one dog might not always look the same for another dog, because really it's just, like I said, you're making them feel more empowered. Something that looks scary, you actually turn it into something that's really awesome. So, like for my personal dog, who's sitting over here like a true angel.
No.
She's
She's on the couch. You want her up there?
She's on the couch. Yeah, she's a good girl. No, even if she's a bad girl, she's allowed on the couch. But so she's a little nervous, and we were doing rollover, and I thought it'd be a nice, easy trick for her to do. We've never done it, and like I told Rachel, it really showed me how much of a nervous dog she was, because even if I take my hand near her head to lure her, she kind of freaked out about it. Like she's like, "Why is your hand near my head?" So just conditioning her to get used to my hand being there is confidence building for her, because that made her nervous. Right. Whereas another dog, that might not make that dog nervous. So confidence building for that dog might be jumping onto things, going through tunnels. You know, those things could look scary. And then you just make it fun. So you reward them each step that they take towards that object until they conquer it.
Right. So, to add on to that a bit, and you might like not feel the same way or whatever, but again, that's fine. So that obviously confidence building. So before I came here and learned about counter conditioning and learned, like here, there's like a whole like awesome like room that's like for confidence building. It's like looks like a fun playground. Before I had access to something like that, and before I learned more about counter conditioning and like seeing it firsthand, I had a really fearful dog I trained. She was like a feral for a while. She was scared of like leaf scrunching on walks and like scared of everything. So before I came here, a lot of what I did for confidence building was training. I had like training as a confidence builder in itself, because, or the way I did it, maybe it's less confidence building and more desensitization. But it's like for this dog, you know, I got her a good heel inside and we'd go for a heel outside. And she was more concentrated on her command than the leaf scrunching or the stick or the dog barking or whatever was triggering her at that moment. It's like, I'm going to just focus on the command I'm in. And that like kind of desensitized her to it. And I think like I mentioned last podcast, like the dog who is scared of the vacuum, I would go place, like, because putting a dog on place and working it through vacuum desensitization is building its confidence in that way, I think.
But yeah, and it made me think of, so when we teach owners how to work with their dog, it's always come up like, so the owner might be anxious because their dog is normally reactive on a leash with other dogs. We train their dog, it's acting perfectly. And now we ask the owner, are you nervous walking your dog on a leash past this other dog? And they would say, yeah, I'm nervous. And I'm like, that's understandable. You need to have success yourself. So yeah, I can walk your dog past this other dog and not react. But the owner still has it in their mind. Every time we walk past another dog, my dog reacts. So they're anxious. You have to have success to build confidence. So if the owner can walk by this other dog and their dog doesn't react, that just shows them they can have success. That builds their confidence. And that's what you're doing with those dogs.
Yeah,
Their
I was
dog,
gonna say, I see where you're going with that now.
yeah, like that's what you're doing with that dog. So that dog is used to, oh my gosh, every time this vacuum comes out, the world ends. You know, it's a big scary monster machine. But if I'm on place, nothing touches me. And so they get to see that
I lived. I didn't die from the vacuum.
Through success, they get to build confidence. So therefore it's a confidence building.
So you can build confidence in many different ways. Okay.
All right. Number 5. What's your opinion on dog parks?
So my go-to like gut response is always no. So and I will say, like, I'm trying to be more like, if it works for you, if you feel safe, whatever. But like immediately for me, it's like 30 red flags. So before coming to this internship, a couple years ago, I worked at a daycare. I'd have like 80 dogs in a yard. Me being a trainer can watch their body language, can know what's happening, and to break things up. When you're at a dog park, and by the way, I knew all the dogs, so I knew their behavior and what they were okay with. The thought of going to a dog park like gives me so much anxiety. Like, you walk in there, you don't know any of the dogs. The majority of the owners don't know any dog body language. Like, no offense, but it's the truth. They could see dogs bullying each other. We'll say bullying, right? And think it's play.
Yeah.
So you get into all that behavior stuff. You just don't know what's going to happen. The dog's there. Like, you can't advocate for your dog in a dog park. You can't. Just so many things. Like, maybe I'll stick to this and I'll let you get to like the other side of it. But you don't know what's going to happen. And you can't advocate for your dog because you can't just say the word out and everyone disperses. Like here, when we do social, it's not like playtime. It's like hang out and exist together. And if somebody's being a little too pushy, we'll just say out and everyone walks away. And that's us advocating for the dogs. And at a dog park, there's just so many variables that I can't control, so many ways that I can't help my dog if something happens, that to me, it's not worth that anxiety. It's not worth the risk of my dog being attacked, or I don't know, my dog attacking somebody else because I wasn't able to advocate them before it escalated. So again, I try to be like, if you take your dog to a dog park, I don't judge people for it. I'm like, great, I'm glad that works for you. But I very much don't like it for myself.
Right. Yeah, like there's so many unknown variables. There's so many unknowns. And how unfair to not only your dog, but the other dogs, because my question would be, why do you want to go to the dog park?
I want my dog to be friends with other people. I want my dogs to have dog friends.
To socialize, right?
Well, right.
Well, I mean, I can speak from personal experience. I'm not a social person. I enjoy talking to the people that I enjoy talking to, but I don't want to go down the street and hug my neighbor. Like, I don't want to go down and hug this random person that's walking over there.
And then never see them again, by the way. Probably never see them again.
Like, why are we putting so much pressure on our dogs? Like, I think we live through them sometimes. Like, oh, my dog is friendly and loves other dogs. But every dog is different, just like every person's different. So my dog, who loves meeting other dogs and loves playing with them, never would get in a fight. Good God, would never get in a fight, right? This dog over there that I don't know doesn't want my dog in its face because that dog's like me and just wants to sit there, you know? So it's just how unfair. That's number 1. And number 2 is, sorry, she woke up.
Hey, hey. Hey, Diddy.
P. Diddy. Is like the environment. I've been to a dog park with Sadie before because I know that not a lot of people knew about it. So it just gave me like a really big fenced in area to just do whatever I wanted, right? And there was dog poop everywhere. And most of it was diarrhea. And coming from the vet world, I just know that usually means something's wrong. Either they ate something that didn't agree with them or they have parasites. And once parasites are in the soil, it takes like 7 years for one of the parasites to die off fully. So I'm not willing to take the risk of every dog owner that goes in there has their dog dewormed. You know, some of them are going to have worms. I've seen really young puppies go into the dog parks. They shouldn't be in there. But anyway, they could have parasites, and I'm just not willing to take that like risk. No way. So
Right.
I don't really like dog parks, but again, like, yeah, if it works for you, awesome. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. And like me coming from the daycare world, I knew every dog there. Like even aside from knowing their personality, I knew that in order to get in, they all had their shots. So if a fight were to happen, I knew if I go in and break it up, because that's what I would do. I didn't often have fights in my yard, but if something happened, I knew like I'm not going to get bit by a dog that doesn't have their rabies shot, because that would suck if that happened.
Yeah.
So I did actually, like, talking to dog parks, went to a dog park for a photo shoot with the dog. I did like just do like pet portraits and stuff, and the owner wanted the pictures at the dog park. So like immediately, like I had anxiety like going in there, and I had to like turn off my like trainer brain and like not focus on like anything that was happening around me. And there was a scuffle, and I immediately like went to go towards it because that's what I was like trained to do, and I had to like stop because it's like I don't know those dogs.
Yeah,
it's like sorry, I can't do anything here. So yeah, you don't know the dogs. You don't know if they've got their shots, if they're safe with people, if they're safe with dogs, and so whatever. I don't like it, but again, if it floats your boat, if you and your dog have a good time going and everyone's safe, then go. But my opinion on dog parks is that I don't like them. That was the question. My opinion on dog parks is no. They're great for training when you're standing like away from them and you're not going in. No, don't like them.
Okay.
So, next question. I won't poo-poo on dog parks any longer. How do I correct my 5-month-old dachshund for peeing in the house?
Okay. So again, I'm going to answer this question with a question and say, as the owner, where are you? Because most times when there's an issue with dogs peeing in the house, it means that they're, well, A, they're not potty trained, but they're getting too much freedom.
Exactly.
You know, so a key to potty training is really structure and accountability. And I mean, this is still a puppy. So honestly, puppies are like toddlers. When I have a puppy, my eyes are not off of them. Like, I'm watching them like a hawk, because if they're not in a command or like playing, they're getting into trouble. So I wouldn't correct a dog for peeing in the house, especially at that age. There is one exception to that, but like for this age puppy, peeing in the house, I would just add more structure into their day and have like a regular potty schedule, and then just make sure that they're crate trained. But it sounds like that puppy's getting too much freedom. Right.
I completely agree. I've never personally raised a puppy, so I can't really make too many comments on puppy training, other than that I know like it's probably too much freedom and a lack of structure. Question for you though, to put you in the spot.
Good, I love this.
You said there is one exception. Now I have a thought as to what that exception might be, but I'm curious as to when you would correct the peeing in the house.
Yeah. So my exception would be if it's normally a adult male dog, if it's marking. I'll be able to tell the difference, because if it's just an accident, they literally just normally squat and pee. It was an accident, you know. If it's marking, a dog will go up to it, sniff it, raise their leg, and literally like mark to put their scent on it. So I would correct that. Again, that's not something I would do. I wouldn't just say that to a puppy. So even if you see your 5-month-old puppy raising its leg on something, I wouldn't go to correcting it. But let's say you had a 2-year-old male dog that's quote unquote peeing in the house, but it always pees on the sofa corner. I'm like, yeah, that's marking. Yeah, so I would correct that, because that's a conscious choice. It's not urinating anywhere else. It's always on, you know, grandpa's shoes or the corner of the couch. Then that's a choice, and you know, you can correct that.
That's like what I was thinking, but I'm like, because we learn from each other all the time. That's like, oh, Susan, where did you go?
I lost you there.
So we learn from each other all the time. And I think we might have even talked about that already when we started recording, but even before, it's like, yeah, when we were talking about like the favorite command thing, we learn
Yes.
from each other all the time. So I thought marking would be when you would correct, but I want to hear your opinion. And to add
Yeah.
to that, only correct it if you see it happening. So if you walk out of the room and you come back 10 minutes later and there's pee on the couch on that corner, you didn't see it
Really.
happen. The dog's already thinking about something else. So if you walk up and correct them and they're just sitting there, they're going to be like, wow, I was just sitting here and I got corrected. That sucks. So like you have to mark it with like a no or whatever. So like they know that that's what they're being corrected for and correct them for it.
Great. That's awesome. I didn't even think to add that, but that's perfect.
Boom. Okay.
All right, moving on to the next question, which is also puppy related.
Woo.
My pup is 6 months. Is it too early to start training?
So I'll give my thoughts on this, and Susan, please share yours because I don't actually know what yours are. We didn't talk about this. So for me, when I was training, I would do like a puppy camp, which was anywhere between 12 and 20 weeks old. So what is that? 4, 8, 12, 3 months and up. And that, like, I wouldn't use any like tools or anything. I'm not really correcting the dog for much, but like that in itself is training and desensitizing. So you can consider that training. So that's obviously much earlier than 6 months. As far as like putting a prong collar or e-collar on the dog, I usually wouldn't do that until like 4 months. So at 6 months old, you're certainly good to start training. And I like it when people ask about like younger dogs training, because I say like, I love it when people start early. I'm like, train now before you've got like big problems you got to fix. So no,
You don't have to fix later. Yeah.
Right.
That's
So like
good.
six months old certainly is not too early to start training. Now, of course, like you want to train them and it's not just throwing tools on them, but that's a whole different conversation. No, 6 months old is a great time to start training, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I was just gonna agree with you on that one. And like, so for puppies for training, usually the earliest you start is 8 weeks. And I only say that because that's when you can get a puppy, is 8 weeks old. So as an owner, if you just adopt this puppy, every day you have them, every second is training, every interaction you have with them. So
all right, I'm so glad you said that because I was going to say that. And I'm like, I've been ranting way too much tonight. I should probably just keep my answers simple, but literally, thank you. Continue.
I stole that thought from your head.
No, I'm so glad. Thank you for saying it. Continue.
Yeah. So you're training every second you have them, whether, not even just when they're puppies. So it's not like, oh God, if it's a puppy, like they're learning from me at all times. It's every dog at any age. Every interaction is training. Right. Because you're either saying yes or no to a dog. Mm-hmm. A lack of no equals a yes. So if you have a young puppy and they're nipping at your shoes, if you don't do nothing about it, you're saying, yep, keep doing that, puppy. That's great. Right. So just simple things like that. But every interaction, they're learning from you just like a kid. So they're taking in what's happening and logging that for next time and creating patterns in their mind. So I would say the earliest is 8 weeks, but even some breeders start to desensitize puppies when they're younger. So your dog's never too young to start training them.
I'm so glad you said that. Yeah.
It's just like their age is then dictates how we train them though, right? So if it's a young puppy, so I have a puppy right now that I'm training. She's 15 weeks old, but like everything is fun unless you're doing something that can be harmful. So if you're jumping or if you're nipping, biting me, you're going to get corrected for that. But when we're doing obedience stuff, there's no corrections. It's all fun and games. Whereas with an adult dog, you can start corrections earlier. With puppies, I'm going to keep it pretty fun for maybe, several weeks. Whereas with an adult dog, you can start corrections a little bit sooner than that. So their age just dictates how we train, but you can always train them.
Yep. And then just one more thing to add, because like what you were saying of in the rant that I was going to avoid, so I'm glad you went on it. I made a post about it a while back. It's kind of old. And then I'm pretty sure it's a quote by Sean O'Shea, said it really well. I think he says, you're always training your dog whether you mean to or not. Or maybe that's how I worded it. I don't remember how I worded it versus how he worded it. Either way, he's got a great post about that too. But just like you said about the patterns and they're learning, okay, this is not. So keeping that in mind. And then I also told clients when I was doing the puppy camp that remember you are raising a dog, not a puppy. So with the nipping on the shoes, someone's gonna like just ignore that from a puppy, or a dog 6 months or younger. They're gonna just ignore that because it's little, it's cute, it's fine. But like if you walk over to somebody's house and you're hanging out and their adult dog comes over and starts chewing on your shoes, you're probably not gonna think that's cute.
Right.
So yeah, I really like what you said, and dogs are always learning from us whether we mean to train them or not.
Yep.
So, and how you train them depends on their age. So I think you answered that spot on.
Yep.
My pen is dead. All right, is it my turn to ask the next question?
Sure is.
So I've heard you mention marker words. What are they?
So a marker word is just a word that takes a snapshot of a behavior that a dog's doing. So dogs actually think in pictures. So the marker word is just taking that mental snapshot for the dog of the behavior that we're either going to punish or reward. So good is a marker word, just like no is a marker word. So it just takes that snapshot and that snapshot marker word allows us a little bit of time to apply either the reward or the punisher. So that's the importance of marker words. So let's say a dog was, I'll say barking. So if a dog's barking, you want to say the marker word right when they bark. You don't want to wait like 2 seconds and then say no, because you're actually marking nothing.
Right.
And if you punish, they're like, what did you punish me for? I did nothing. Right. So you want to mark the actual thing that you don't agree with, or vice versa, the actual thing that you do agree with, which is why some people can even mess up clicker training, because a clicker is the same thing as a marker. Yeah, it's just marking a behavior. So if you're teaching a dog, I was teaching Sadie to put her paw up to wave. So if I get her to do it, and I did this once, I was like nuts. So I said wave, and she did this, and as her paw was coming down, I clicked. So that's too late. You need to click or put the marker word right when they're doing the behavior. So marker words are just little snapshot pictures to let the dog know the behavior's good or bad.
And then just to add to that real quick, because you mentioned you don't want to say no 2 seconds after and then correct. The cool thing about marker words is, like you said, it's the picture. So with the dog peeing on the couch scenario, right? If you see the dog, say he's e-collar, you're going to e-collar correct him, right? So you see the dog lift its legs, pees on the couch, you mark it with no. The time you can get up and stand up, walk to the other side of the room, get the remote and correct. Then, even if the dog's like stopped peeing, it's fine, because you use that marker word to mark in that moment no, right?
Yeah.
It's like that time it takes you to follow through with the correction or to follow through with the reward. It's like, if I could tell you good, I still have to reach into my treat pouch and give you a treat. So the seconds it takes for that is fine, but I marked it with the word.
Right.
Right.
So it gives you a little bit more freedom to where you don't have to worry about your timing being off either way. So yeah, if I had my e-collar in my hand for that peeing dog and I'm watching it, and as he lifts his leg and pees, I correct him with the button, I don't have to say a word. But if my remote collar is sitting on the counter over there, that's when I would use a marker word, because I can't punish you right away. So it's a placeholder.
Exactly. Placeholder is the word.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So then you're able to have a little bit of time to follow through on it. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because I felt like it needed more of an explanation, and we were able to get through that. So that was good. All right. Number 9, what side should my dog heel on?
So that's gonna depend on a couple things. So did you train your dog a heel? And if so, what side did you train them on? So it's personal preference. If you haven't trained your dog, you can train them to heel on either side. If you took your dog to a trainer and they told your dog that heel means to walk on my left-hand side, then the left side is where they need to walk. But yeah, it's just going to depend on what side you train your dog. So
Yeah,
say
so
you took
you're side specific.
Mhm.
So like, because I just want to touch on that, because when you said if your dog isn't trained yet, you can teach them to walk on either side. Just to clarify, that means heel.
will
Like when you
always
teach
be on
your
that
dog
side.
heel, it'll always be one side.
Right.
You can teach your dog to heel on the left side, and then you can teach them to walk on the right side, but you just have to name it something else. You can't use heel interchangeably left and right side.
Because then the dog is going to be confused. Because like you mentioned before, dogs think in pictures, which is such a cool concept, and I didn't learn that until recently. So think about it from the dog's eye level, right? Their picture is you standing to the right of them. That's what they know. That's what they've learned. So then being on the other side is a different picture for them.
Yeah.
Sorry, my headphone just died, so it made a weird noise in my ear, and that's why I like paused for a minute.
Oh.
So it is side specific. So it's a command. The command is not just to walk next to me and not pull. The command is to walk on my left side in this position, and that's the command. Sit when I stop, walk on this side. So yeah, I can train you a different thing over here. It's like, I think someone said before, like, my dog is out of position in their heel, but they're not pulling. Is that okay? Well, no, because that's not the command. The command is heel, which means be in this position. So in my case, train it on the left side. The command is to walk on this side. But if you want to, train it on this side, but you just have to be consistent with that and make sure you like follow through with what the command means in the way that you trained it.
Right.
That like makes
Yeah.
sense.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, you've touched on everything. I just wanted to clarify that one thing you said, but everything
No, I
was
appreciated that. Yeah.
perfect.
All right, so last one. And my headphone just died, so can you hear me talking?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it definitely sounds different.
Can you like hear me fine though?
Yeah, it just sounds more echoey.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna have to finish the video like this, and technical difficulties. Maybe I'll edit this part out, maybe I won't.
Yeah. Who knows?
If y'all are seeing this, then lucky you. You get to see my headphone fail. It was the 2 hours of talking we did before this, bouncing.
Your major battery die.
Right? Pretty sure they're charged too. Okay. So last question. Is it too late to socialize my 1-year-old Border Collie?
Okay. So, as long as your dog is still mentally aware and breathing, you can train your dog no matter what. So, socialize, I think a lot of people think of it as like a dog park situation. You know, my dog could be friends with another dog. I don't see that as that, and I don't see as great success trying to socialize a dog in that situation. So socialize just means existence, just being able to exist around a lot of different things, people, dogs, cats, anything. So is it too late? Definitely not. You can always train a dog, but it's just let's evaluate what socialization means. Because if you try to take a 1-year-old dog that's never been quote unquote socialized, stick them in a dog park, that's going to be awful. So you definitely want to just teach them to exist with other people and animals.
I completely agree. Like when we talked about this before, we were both kind of saying the same thing, and it's like you read that question to me at first, and I was like, well, don't take them to a dog park and socialize them. Y'all know how I feel about dog parks now. Made my opinion clear on that. Oops.
Yeah, don't make her rant again. Her batteries are gonna die in her laptop.
So, but like for me, like a dog being socialized is just like, don't try to kill that person. Don't try to attack that dog. Like you said, just existing. And I think that's the big thing. It's like, my dog doesn't need to be friends with everybody. I don't need to socialize them in the sense, I don't need to have them playing with people. I need my dog to be well trained is really all it is. But I need my dog to be socialized enough that I can have company over, and I guess if he's not on place, he's not gonna like try to attack somebody or
Right.
another dog. I don't know. It's to me, it's socializing the dog in the sense of that I want them to coexist is very much borderline just having a trained dog. You know what I mean? Because it's like I can just put my dog on place and have people around, and that in itself is going to socialize them, but they're just in their place. Like you don't really even necessarily need to have any free time with strangers or random dogs that I don't know.
Right. And I think there's also a misconception about like socializing. So just bringing up different things that I've heard people say. So if someone has kids and their 1-year-old dog that they've had since a puppy, doesn't like their kids coming up and hugging it, like they snarl at them, I'm kind of like, okay, that makes sense, because not all dogs are going to let kids hug up all on them. Like that's a really big personal space, like invasion. So some people might say, well, that dog wasn't socialized properly. No, that dog is perfectly fine the way it is. Like we need to advocate for that dog. Some dogs don't care if a baby hugs up all over them. Other dogs really do care. So like that's not socialization. That's just the dog's personality, and every dog's different. So I just wanted to mention that.
No, that was like a really good point, and like, and I think they like kind of touched on what I was saying too, being like, but worded it better, because it's like anytime people say things about wanting to socialize their dog to me, I kind of cringe a little, because I do feel like some people, their idea of socializing a dog is just going to be pushing their boundaries. Like, oh, you don't hug on you? I should hug on you more. Like, that's not socializing your dog. That's not reading their body language. That's not advocating for them. So that's like why I was kind of like, don't even socialize them, just train them. Do some like duration work, do some existing work. Like it's fine. That's like why I friends with socialization. It's like, sorry, thought of a YouTube video I saw once, but it's like my 6-month-old Border Collie is not socialized. I'm gonna just go throw him in a dog park and see what happens. Sorry, let me stop.
Yeah.
So a video Susan and I watched together. That was really fun to watch on YouTube. But yeah, it's like that's not how you socialize by just throwing your dog in situations that is gonna make them uncomfortable. You can socialize your dog by just teaching them to exist. And I think that's my big thing with the word socialization. Is another rant I'll go on, but that's it.
Done. Time is up.
Say before I say anything else.
We need to have like a timer on our shows that goes off, and it's like, nope, we have to be done with this question next. Like,
okay, Rachel, you're ranting again. But no, like I think it's like a really good point of like, what do you mean socialize and why?
Yeah. Right. Well, that was the end. We reached the end again.
Yeah, I'm still having a great time with this.
Yeah. Another week long, but yeah, I'm loving actually getting to, since I didn't touch on at the beginning is why we're doing this interface now. So we met as interns, but I was done with my internship, so I'm actually home now. So she's in Rhode Island, and I'm in Pennsylvania right now. So this is how we're gonna do our live Q&As. Yeah, it's just a different way, but we found it. We had to do some investigating.
Yeah, we're still working out things.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, that's why before we started, we spent 2 hours talking about dog training. We're both, I don't know if y'all know this, we're both pretty passionate about dog training.
True story.
Plot twist, we like dog training. So for 2 hours before we even started our Q&A, we're just talking about dog training, bouncing some ideas off of each other, and it was pretty cool. So super glad that we had time as trainers to talk to another dog trainer about training.
Yeah.
And, as this continues, we'll get more and more questions and help out some people. So
yeah,
let me just go ahead and plug our video real quick. Please like and share and comment if you have any questions. Feel free to comment on this post, comment on wherever we'll see it, and we'll be sure to add that to whatever the next video we record is.
I definitely want people to like notice and I don't care where it is. Just post a question, and we'll just make sure that we answer it.
Right.
Mhm.